All right, yeah. So I think we're live now. First time in a
Okay.
while since I've been live. So I'm still it's the lovely streaming live quirks of making sure everything sounds and looks good and all that fun stuff. Let's see, make sure. There we go. But yeah, I think that's we're there now. I think. Hopefully, if anybody's in, I don't see anybody in there yet. Um, can tell us we sound okay or not.
Yeah, I'm still getting some delay. Really, we just need an audio check and a delay check.
Yeah, audio and delay check.
Oh, this is going to be weird too. I've got YouTube, like you said, pulled up on one and us on the other side. And
Yeah,
I
it gets
can't watch the YouTube one because that's behind.
it's usually about a couple seconds behind, and then even I've noticed that going from
Yeah.
Zoom to if I'm watching it on OBS, it's delayed there too. Like it'll have like this crazy delay. So I try to just have it where it's
Yeah.
just the Zoom window, um, and then have like the chat up on like my phone or something, or I don't know, just so I can maintain it. So we might have a little bit of some hiccups. I was just realizing too, we have a bunch of storms here right now, so that could be another factor.
Oh, true. That's, yeah,
um,
a factor in.
yeah, because we're definitely gonna have having some choppiness with the internet right now. So, um, eh, the joys of live streaming across the country, right?
Right. We get through it.
Yeah. So Ryan, first time on this channel. I was on your channel a while back, and this was kind of just a fun kind of get into chatting and having a discussion. Nothing crazy. Usually the Hi-Fi After Darks are some whiskey or some booze and just chatting about whatever comes up kind of deal. But I think we had a couple of topics that you wanted to talk about a little bit and kind of go from there. But I'll let you. And if you don't know, you can check Ryan's channel down below, and he does a lot of audio reviews as well. So, but what were you thinking for, or actually, how's things otherwise outside of audio and all that fun stuff? How's life de la Ryan?
So I don't talk about, yeah, sorry, we're still syncing up a little bit here if anybody's watching this. But yeah, I mean, I don't talk much about my other stuff I do very much in my channel, but all I can say is all manager and it's holiday season. So if that
Mm-hmm.
says enough, it's very here for me for like the last probably month since October started. So, but yeah, I mean, other than that, man, it's just been work, 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 and trying to do some reviews here and there and hang out with the family. So that's uh that's been me for like the ever since Can Jam really since I got back.
Yeah, I feel that. Real quick, everyone in the
Hopefully that
chat,
went through.
yeah, can you make sure that you heard Ryan and if you can hear me and everything like that? So that'd be good. What's up, Ace Bree? Thanks for joining. Um, but yeah, so yeah, same man. After Can Jam SoCal, it was such a weird uh, school start. It was like in full swing for me with the kids and all that fun stuff, but um, the kid, not kids, the kid. And then it was, then it just all of a sudden here we are, a couple months in. Um, but anyways, real quick, I was thinking some of the things we wanted to kind of discuss would be like what is on your mind? Because there's a couple things I thought I've been thinking about, but I wanted to get what you wanted to kind of chat about first out the way, and not out the way, but like you're the guest. We don't want to talk about what you want to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good with whatever. But I know one thing I were kind of talking about before was uh I actually liked your idea of the general consensus of a lot of reviewers just seem to like everything, and how I think people just get a misconception of that and not really that just a lot of products are just good nowadays and not like excellent, but good to where I don't know what you think about that, but I mean, sometimes as somebody that does reviews or impressions, you almost go into something and it's bad. You almost go in with a mindset of like, okay, I need to find some things wrong with this so people will at least follow along and say, hey, yeah, he found some things wrong. But I don't know, it's a bad way to look at a product.
Yeah, yeah. I think I tend to be optimistic, and I'll go in sometimes with thoughts of like, like this is having low expectations for a product. Even sometimes, like that'll be something I'll do, and then that will usually be flipped on its head a little bit to some degree. But I think the other big part of it, I was thinking about this, is that for me, even if I don't like something, like or some part of a thing in a headphone or amp or whatever, I try to take myself out of that to some level and try to like how would this might be something that somebody does enjoy or loves this or like that aspect of it as well. Like try to um, take myself out of the equation and put like somebody else who actually does like that aspect that I don't like into my thoughts, I guess. So that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it does. Um, yeah. I mean, I was just thinking of like even just a couple of things I recently covered that, sometimes you get the comments on or about. Um, I don't know. I just think some people almost take things personally when they got to
Mm,
remember it's a thing. It's an object, it's nothing personal. It's just telling your thoughts and opinions, and
yeah.
it's really what it comes down to. And, um, 90% of it's subjective anyway. So don't take it personal.
Yeah, and that's the other factor too, right? Is you got, and I think that's well, there's a couple hot points about what you just said a little bit in the sense of like, I always ask people too, like, your own ears are the ultimate judge of a thing, right? So like my opinion is like you said, my opinion, but at the same time, I also think there's this also odd contingent of people that will watch a review of somebody else that slams something or doesn't like something, and so then they take on that persona to some level, and they've never actually heard or tried said thing that they're now saying is not good. You know, which I think is a little frustrating because it's I don't know somewhat I mean, not disingenuous. I think they're actually trying to have a point, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on like that kind of thing?
Yeah, no, I agree with that too. Because especially in our hobby, well, I guess, if you think about that, a lot of technology, it's kind of the same way that, we talk about synergies all the time
Yeah.
and what we hear. And, especially in this hobby is like someone may not, they may just view a measurement or something and tell you that you're not perceiving the product the way they thought or the way they may have thought it was going to sound. I don't know. I just,
It's the
I think,
protagonist problem.
yeah, yeah. I mean, part of it is your own hearing, of course.
Mm-hmm.
That's that's ground zero. But beyond that is all the stuff that you have hooked up. I ran into this severely with the Yamaha headphone that
Mm-hmm.
I covered a couple of weeks back
Yeah.
because I caught some flack for not having quality gear, paired up with that. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
come on. I mean, I'm not plugging this into a phone.
And so it's funny because I sometimes I get just in my own way a little bit in that regard too, like where I have some other random amps here and there, and I was listening out this one amp with gosh, what was I listening? Oh, it was the Mez Lyric, and and it sounded horrible. And it was like this was like one of my favorite amps too. It's and it just the lyric just for whatever reason just didn't sound good. And I was about to do a full like write up. I wrote all my notes, did like my whole review write up on it, and also I was like, well, I should probably try this with like my other amps just so I have a comparison later on, and or for when I do my different amps. And all of a sudden I plugged it into like my TT2 or my TCP ECPT4, and it was all of a sudden the thing came alive and it sounded fantastic. And I was just like, oh man, so now I had to go back, and redo all my listening and try to figure out why that was. And it was just a synergy thing. It would have, it was, and how many people are listening to things and just that happens, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've talked about this in our Discord group, and you see this in forum posts about, some people will think, well, an amp's an amp, and if you look at a piece of paper and it tells you it has this much power out and this much current and all of this, and it can power it, then it shouldn't matter. And that is absolutely not true. Once you've heard
yeah.
many different amps, and I was guilty when I first a hobby that thinking that, yeah, it shouldn't really matter, but matters so much.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out though, between the DAC and the amp, what is mattering more. And I'm really facing that now that I got a new DAC, because I'm hearing things now that I hadn't heard before with other DAC. So
So
it all plays together.
yes, and so it's like and DACs are hard because until you actually hear the difference, it's almost impossible to explain that. It's such a
Yeah.
weird, and because it's such a small difference, it's a very minute difference. But once you hear it, it's like, oh, I'm like you said, you hear these little nuances that just makes it's like the pebble that turns into a boulder, or the snowball that turns into an avalanche kind of deal. Like it's this all these little small pieces that kind of up it. Every little part there gets upped a little bit, but the overall picture of it is maybe more than you would think of when you pick it apart, as far as the DAC goes. And I've always thought that DACs are the last part of the thing you should be worrying about. Like you should set a budget and max it out, buy the DAC that's max it out, and then be done with DACs for a long time. That's how I view them. Um, but they do matter. They do have a different flavor. I think once you start getting into R2R and some of just the higher end stuff, it's not because it's expensive that I think it's better. It's just that they have more things in it. There's more nuance to it, I guess. I don't know. But I've heard over like off the shelf chips like AKM or ESS kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm noticing that when I don't have my ADI2 DAC anymore, and that DAC is really good. It's a different type of DAC, and now I've got Bifrost 2, and dude, like, I didn't think there was going to be that much of a difference when I first looked into both of those to purchase.
Mm-hmm.
I remember reading somebody was like, "Oh, just pick one. They're about the same." They are not. No, I mean the Bifrost 2 is more intimate and does have more like fun musicality to it, and I'm digging that amp, man. And then I've heard the same thing about the Yigi, which I'll
Yeah.
probably never own because of how expensive that is. But I've heard the same thing about that it's like you were talking about. It's a lot more expensive, yeah, but it's just different. It's
Yeah.
not that it's so much better. At least that's what the guys that we talked to. That's what they've said is like, no,
Yeah.
Bifrost 2 is great. You're just going to get a different flavor.
Yeah, and that's always what I've got. And then it's just that you're chasing the flavor, the stuff you want to hear, like those little nuanced differences, and then it's just finding what you like the most, really, at the end of the day, with DAX, in my opinion. And eventually you'll find
Yeah.
it, or you just don't, or you just stick to the one or two that you try, and you pick the one you like the most, and be done. Because the bigger things in the chain are the amp, and definitively the transducers are going to be the biggest. So.
Yeah. And I'll apologize now if I'm like delayed in my responses because this is so choppy for me. And I think it's more my setup than yours, to be honest.
Oh
I'll
no.
get this fixed eventually. The wife actually texted me and she's like, "Yeah, your voice is not matching up with your video." I'm like, "Oh, fantastic. It's doing it again." So
No worries, man.
I got to fix it at some point.
Well, I mean, that's like, well, yeah. This is also my first time, well, second time ever, but first time in a real long time using my MacBook or my Mac setup for doing like a live stream like this. So a little bit of a learning curve there for
Yeah.
me as well. Like it's weird, man. I'm so used to it's so used to being a Wi-Fi machine, that it's tough to like when I plug in that dongle, it registers, but it doesn't. It's weird. So.
Yeah, like I'm
Um,
looking at our Zoom, and you're still frozen 5 minutes ago, but I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you just fine
It's
too.
so bizarre.
Yeah, like so right now too is I just have it on the YouTube uh channel, so like the image is this tiny little thing, and it says, I'm looking at I'm trying to watch the packets and all that fun stuff, and it says we have an excellent connection, so I don't know what's going on there, but I can hear you just fine.
Yeah.
It's so, but I'm also not actually like looking at video right now. So like on my screen it's
Yeah.
like it's there, but it's YouTube video, so it's delayed by like I think the delay from OBS to YouTube is like a 5 to 10 second delay. I think it's something crazy.
Yeah.
But well, hopefully just people can hear, and then really that's what the most important part really is. I'm not the prettiest man in the world, so I it's okay with me if you just hear my voice.
Shut the video off.
Yeah.
Treat it like a podcast.
Yeah, there you go. I'll throw up the HiFi After Dark logo.
Right. Hey, by the way, before we get too far into this, I did want to say Happy Veterans Day. Appreciate everything you did, man. Your service for the country. So,
Cheers.
but
Yeah.
no.
Thank you. It's I don't know, man. I've never been good with the veteran stuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, appreciate it though. Thank you. And then back to some other random stuff. Awkward pause. Back to the.
Sorry.
Oh no, you're good, man. It's a me thing, not a you thing.
I get it.
Let's see. Sorry, my wife just texted me too, but it has nothing to do with what we're doing right now. So turn it off. Actually, real quick, I don't think we mentioned it. What are we drinking tonight?
No. So you go ahead.
Oh, I'm just doing the Abunad Alba, which I prefer the regular Abunad. So the Alba for this is a Scotch, and so the Alba is a bourbon matured in bourbon oak barrels. So, and it's a little bit hot. It's about 121.8 proof or 60% alcohol by volume. So it's giving me the so I might switch from that to a lighter one that I had, but I'll show that. I guess I could show that real quick. It's this 13th Colony rye whiskey, and it's super good. It's a smaller distillery out of Georgia. No, South Carolina.
That is a cool bottle.
Yeah. Georgia. Yeah. What are you rocking?
Yeah, that's a very cool bottle. Hard truth. That's pretty much what I'm always doing these days for the most part. Now this one is I think I told you before, but it's the John Mellencamp, their distillery that they partner with them on. And yeah, I mean this is 106 proof. It's pretty hot as well. But it's a sweet mash straight rye. Ooh. It is good.
I love
their stuff. Yeah. Now, I think I told you about this one before, but if you ever get a chance to look up it's called Duality. I think it's Duality.
I've had Duality.
There's a particular one that has like a pipe smoke finish, and it reminded me of the thumbnail that you had from our last stream that we did. But like, I don't smoke on a pipe or anything, but I tasted it, and it's actually a really, really damn good whiskey too. Mm-hmm. So if you get a chance, check that one out.
What we'll do. Cheers. Yeah, man, I've been actually on a Japanese whiskey. I was almost gonna do a Japanese whiskey tonight too, because I watched that Blue-Eyed Samurai show on Netflix, and then started playing I started my New Game Plus again on Ghost of Tsushima. So I was like super hardcore into like the Japanese aesthetic and game and world, and so but I figured I'd do a Scotch so instead, and then that rye because it's a little bit lighter. And I've been a little bit overdone on the
Just get
Japanese.
you some waifu IMs now. Although I don't know what is waifu. Is it Chinese, Japanese? I don't.
It doesn't matter.
It shows my ignorance there with it.
I think it's just if you like anime, it's like an anime thing. It's an anime reference, not less so about the like the
Pop
different.
culture.
Yeah, it's more of a pop culture anime reference than it is anything else. And it's basically like
Gotcha.
you have your favorite character, and they become like your wife, but it's like your anime wife, kind of like a work wife, but like for anime, I guess. That's, and I'm probably just as ignorant to that, and I'm probably just totally butchered the actual meaning of it, but that's my understanding.
It's all right. Yeah, it's kind of what I learned as well. It's
um,
interesting.
yeah, craziness. I was gonna say, latest things you've been listening to. Anything new or exciting?
Yeah, that's the problem is I keep going through my same set list that I have for my title, which is just very random,
Mm-hmm.
just the stuff that I listen to for headphones. That's actually, and I'd love to hear from you what you're listening to, because that's actually something that I'm catching myself doing more that I need to stop. Is I'm going from like one product to the next, and I don't feel like in the last like probably month I've enjoyed music. I've been listening for the things for writing down, but I haven't really been enjoying the music. And I'm like, I need to stop this because I'm going to go down a hole I don't want to go down
Yeah.
by doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I found it's funny. I actually found myself doing the similar thing, um, like around the spring, last spring, and that's probably when I took a break a little bit. That and we just had a really busy summer, but it was, yeah. I was trying to like get back to just enjoying music again, and so one of the things I do to battle that is I find like new music discovery type stuff, and then I just try and pick random tracks that I liked from my new music
Yep.
discovery over the week, or over the, and I try to stick to like the top 20 tracks that I've liked over the last, however long, and that's one way that I've been trying to get around the burnout or fatigue of listening to the same music or trying to like pick apart something. And I think also I've just been trying to focus more on my thoughts rather than it being like, I don't think of my stuff as reviews. I think of it as just me chatting about my thoughts on a product or a thing, So
Right. Yeah, no, I agree with you 100% on that. I always hesitate to call them reviews because it makes me sound like I think I know what I'm doing, but I mean, that's how people identify it. So I call it that anyway, but I know what you
yeah,
mean exactly.
yeah. Like I think that it's like, I don't know, because like one of the weirder things, like a weird dynamic that you get going if you do, in my opinion, like, because I'm not perfect. Like, I'm 100% not. And I don't think that my opinion is better than anybody else's. So I think that's a weird
Yeah.
empathy thing that comes with it too, for some level of mine. Like, where I'm like, I don't know. I just don't, like, dude, I'm no engineer. I'm no, I don't have, I'm pretty sure I don't have perfect hearing. Yeah, I've passed all my tests for hearing over the years and stuff, and even more recently. But I mean, I'm me. I'm not
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, no, I get it. About the only thing I can say, and I'm sure probably kind of do this too, to give myself credit, is like if I'm listening to a product, I don't try to go and watch a video on somebody else and
Mm,
what they thought before I do mine. Just now, I'll be honest, like I've done it before if it's something I know I won't listen to for a while
hmm.
because I'm gonna forget, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, if it's like something I'm currently reviewing, I won't watch anybody's
Yeah.
video just
Same.
because it's so easy to get influenced in that stuff. And I
Oh,
mean,
dude.
look at measurements. That's why
Huge.
people get influenced by that. Yeah.
Huge. So it's that's a the you start getting developing a bias, or you get, and not even a bias, but like you said, influenced by outside views, and that's actually a big thing, man. Like, so, like, even so, oh, they're behind me. The FIO, the A3 or SP3 speakers that I just did. Like, I didn't watch
Yeah.
anything about them. I think I asked a random person what they thought about them, and they're good about just being like, I had their about them kind of thing. So I came in with low expectations, but that was about it. Like, there was no deep dive on it, and so I did that video, and I was, then I, checking it on YouTube and stuff, and you go and see all the views. And that was funny because it was the very first one that popped up for me when I was looking at it. Was one of the most negative reviews of them ever, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, this guy just totally tore these apart. And then And I was just like, but they like I'm like sitting there going, God, these weren't that bad. Like I don't understand. Like they're for what they're for. Like these little tiny desktop speakers, and I thought they were great for that.
Yeah.
Like you turn up the bass on them, they have a nice presence and they sound good, and like they definitely sound good enough. They're not like the next coming of speakers or anything, but they're for their use case, they're great. But I
Right.
don't know.
Your video had me hooked on it because I'll be honest, I've got I don't even know if you know what these are, but I have a set of Corsair SP 2500, I think is what they're called. They're like back from 2011, but
Okay.
they're like a rock. They've lasted forever. And they sound good, but I want something because I've got a giant sub under my desk
Mhm.
and I'm tired of kicking it. So I just wanted a desktop set. And I was looking at those Fios. I was like, all right, I'll add them to a list.
They're
So
yeah, man. Like I think for just like that, like just as like a quick, easy to do, like they're cheap enough. You can find them on sale too, or what have you. And they're built like a tank. I think the only quirks that I really it's back here. I'm trying to like look for it, but is there little rubber mats that they put on? If you don't have those, they're just plastic, and it's you need to have those little rubber mats for them to be
right,
effective. But yeah, dude, I
right,
thought they were good for what they were. But like that goes back to what we were talking about before, though, right? Like, it's
yeah,
crazy how much influence you can be, how much because then I'm watching some of the videos like that, and you see the people talking in there in the little chats, and they get all like super all like, oh yeah, you're doing such a good job by calling these guys out for this. And then the more I watched it, it seemed like they were more upset about the marketing practices, less so about the actual functionality of the speaker. So I was like, and then I don't know. And then it was about the measurements too. They went way into the measurements, and I've always been like, I don't know. For me, measurements are only like one part of a story. Like we talk about this, and it's like when you have the measurements, it's kind of you and I having or like I tell someone a story, you tell someone a story of the same event we were both at, and somewhere in between is the truth. And I feel that's like measurements versus a subjective opinion, and somewhere in between is the actual, you know.
yeah. No, 100%. That is exactly true. And it's funny, I kind of with your Fio speakers, I kind of faced the opposite, like I said, with that Yamaha, because I didn't bash all over it. I just didn't really like it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was ready to be done with it. And then I'm reading some comments and a couple people were like, thanking me like, oh yeah, I'll pass this one. I'm like, no, I mean, I'm not telling you to pass on it. If you got something that's going to synergize with
Mm-hmm.
it, I'm just saying like maybe listen to it first. But then there was others that were saying, well, this is the greatest thing I've heard. Good.
Yeah,
Okay. I mean,
fantastic.
that no problem with that. I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I had the same thing with the. I always it was such a meme too, man. With the Susvara, the HiFi Susvara,
Mhm.
and you get the people that are like, "Oh, well, you didn't listen to it right. You weren't listening off of this X, Y, and Z amp that only three were made, so therefore you can't possibly understand, and you weren't using speaker taps to power it. You weren't, and it's like, man, it's like this weird moving goalpost of like,
yeah,
and so it's
it
like,
is like you didn't have the perfect setup.
yeah,
Sorry.
or their perfect setup. That's the other factor
Right.
too,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yep.
as much as we all hear the same, we all do also hear different, and there's other reasons behind that, between psychological to physical to I don't know, mental state at a time that you're listening, like how much booze you had, how much coffee you
Hmm.
had, like
Yeah.
there's so much different things. Like I always say, man, my favorite distortion method for audio is a little bit of
No, it's true. It chills you out a little bit. I mean, I have nothing against it. Throw it
yeah,
on with some tube amps. Heck yeah.
throw on some tube amps and
Um,
really get lost to the warmth.
yeah.
um,
I tell you something else, to get off topic a little bit,
oh yeah,
but
I'm all for it.
I actually like 2 weeks ago or something, I started looking into my PC because I was talking to a buddy of mine that we used to build PCs all the time
Mm-hmm.
together. We'd, talk about parts and everything. dude, I went to Micro Center today actually, and I've got everything all set up, ready to make myself a new PC because I haven't gamed in like 2 months.
Oh yeah.
And like, what's wrong with me? But I know what's wrong with me. It's just a busy time.
Busy.
But yeah, something fun to do, and my son will probably watch along with me. But you've built yours
Yeah.
as well, right? Or no?
Yeah, yeah.
Not too bad.
I built the past. It's so cold in my room that my glasses are fogging up. I built all the past like every computer I've had except for my Macs obviously have been built PCs. And it's fun, man. Like I'm actually kind of biting at the bit a little bit to build a new one myself. Like I want to build something like just dedicated to gaming too, right? Like because right now the Mac is doing everything else for me. So until so I want to separate them out, right? I want the Mac to be purely creative, and then the gaming PC be a gaming PC kind of deal. But yeah, it's
it's a lot of fun.
I'm in the same boat though, man. I have not been playing games. Like I was saying, I was playing Ghost of Tsushima, but like I went through this real long phase of like same thing. Like I think it was a couple months, dude, where I was just like, I just had no desire to play video games. I was reading a lot of books. I was working on the getting the setup more done up and working on some other projects, but a lot of photography. But I just like every time I went to go play a game, like I'd turn it on, I'd sit there and I'd be like, yeah, no, and turn it off and go do something else. It was so weird. And then I got into this thing. That was it, kind of resparked it actually for me. As I got this, I got the Switch OLED thing here, but it's the the controller is like this funky.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's the Switch slides right into it, and it's just a cool controller. And it's like a limited edition one. It's a limited run version. But it was Super Mario Brothers Wonder. And so I'm almost beaten Super Mario's Wonder in like I don't know, the past week or two that I started playing games again. And then like I said, the Blue Samurai show came up, and I was like, must play Ghost of Tsushima. So I'm like going through Ghost of Tsushima and just loving that game. So huge Samurai fan.
Yeah, that's cool. Now, my son, I've got a Switch, and it's really my son's now, and he's been getting into that. And we were looking at that new Mario game, and I told him, I was like, oh, we'll add it to the Christmas list. So
it's cool. Yeah. It's my daughter. She's been playing on it. She likes it too. But she's really been digging on Bowser's Fury, the 3D world one with the cat suits. You know what I'm talking about?
No, I'll have to look it up.
It's like it's more like Mario 64 style, and it's funny. I was watching her play the other day, and she was actually playing Bowser's Fury part and like getting through. Like she made it through multiple steps and stages of that part of that game by herself without me coaching her or anything. I was like, holy crap, that's impressive. Switching over to the rye whiskey. Oh, go ahead.
Nice. I mean, my son is so he's got his little Amazon Fire tablet, and he loves that thing, and he plays Minecraft. Like I'm amazed by what he can do with Minecraft. Like we'll go to like just someplace random. He's like, I'm gonna go home and build that in Minecraft, and he does. He goes home and like he'll show us the tablet. Like, hey, here's this. Here's a little bridge and whatever else he built. And it is That's so cool. I'm like, I couldn't have done that.
Yeah, my daughter's been. She loves because I have the Apple Arcade on my Mac or AirPad. iPad. Wow, brain doing great things, brain. But my iPad, and so she's been doing like all the different arcade games, and she loves those things. But it's like I've noticed, like she can't get the controller down, like how our generation is more the controller and mouse and keyboard kind of thing. So controllers aren't, but you give her like a touch screen and she's like,
yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, that's how he is too. No, it is crazy. Yeah.
But yeah, kids, man, too fast. They grow up too fast. I was gonna say one of the other things I wanted to kind of talk about, and I wrote it down, but I left my notebook thing. I was thinking of like the anger about Oh yeah, yeah. Pants a Bear. Yeah, Bowser's Fury, stupid good. Sorry, comment random popped up. I'm sure my comments are so. I'm not sure, but what was it going with? Oh, so I was gonna say like the controversy around your thoughts. What are your thoughts on? Because you're a relatively new content creator, and I've been at this for just only a couple of years, um, and so one of the things I was that always comes up, and people always get such a angry thing about with like this kind of space, right? Is the like the affiliate links or um, the how you're getting like paid, right? Like, and it's kind of a hot, it's a not hot, it's a very touchy subject, right? So, but I wanted to talk about it a little bit. Like,
Yes.
I have um, what like I have 3,000 like subscribers. Not that that's a metric of anything. Um, and so, but I just wanted to kind of touch on it. Is like I make. I think I just looked at it just the other day just because I was curious because I don't pay attention to it because it's never been a money thing for, like at all, and I make about $200 from YouTube a year. Like I don't know, and I don't have the affiliate things. I just don't do the affiliates, so I can't do that. But
Yeah.
um, I not that I can't do it. It's I don't know how I haven't figured out a way to do that yet where I feel comfortable doing it the way but that's part of it too. Like, what's your thoughts on that? Like,
Yeah, you and I have definitely talked about that. So when I first got into doing this, I was like, no, absolutely not. I'm going to steer clear just because I didn't have a lot of knowledge about it. And just
mm-hmm,
from the outside looking in, I thought that was wrong.
mm-hmm,
But, I work with Audio 46 a ton. They
yeah,
send me a ton of stuff. The guy I have, the contact there, he's super nice. They never ask me to say anything about any product. They don't care.
mm, yeah,
They're just
right,
like, hey, do a review on it. Here you go.
mm-hmm,
Um, I would have no problem doing affiliate with them just because I know that's the partnership we have,
mm-hmm,
that they don't care what I say. And I think that's what people have to understand is the background, but I don't know if we owe it to them, to be honest. I mean,
mm-hmm,
it's our thing. I mean, people, a couple of my friends, when I was telling them how much time it takes to do a video, the editing, this is not just sit in front of a phone. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know some people do, and I have nothing against that, but I'm just saying there's so much to it. And the
mm-hmm,
editing part of it, if I added up all the hours and time I put into it, I'd probably cry.
yeah.
But I mean, it's
That's part of the
it's
reason
a
why I
lot
haven't
of
been playing
time. I don't think
games.
there's anything wrong with doing that. Right. Yeah, exactly.
uh,
Um, but no, I don't think there's anything wrong with it as long as the affiliate understands you're saying
mhm.
what you're saying, and that's it.
And I think for like, and so then there's the other flip of that is like your audience, right? So like, because I always see that too, and it's something that there's a very strong contingent of people that don't like affiliate links because they feel like you're biased towards pushing an affiliate link to some level, right? So, because it makes you money. But I'll tell you right now, like even I don't think I've ever, I have you or Amazon affiliates, right? I don't think I've ever made a single
Yep.
dollar off of an Amazon affiliate link. I mean, I'd have to go back and look, but I'm pretty darn certain I haven't made a single like so. I think for me, it just
Right.
affiliates just never were a thing that even factored for me because I just don't. It never. I was like, oh, I don't, and I think there's a fine line. Like I think, and for like each individual person is going to be different and unique. But I don't. I agree with you though. I don't fault anyone for using affiliate links. That's especially if they're upfront with it. They're like, hey, all this costs you is a click, and it doesn't come out of anything. It's just a uh, the company pays them right as an affiliate link. But I don't know. I don't
Right.
know the like for me like I don't care. It doesn't bother me that much. Um, but I think if someone was to push the affiliate link and it was like that was what they're all about, that would maybe throw some red flags. But I guess you just have to do on your own individual level.
Uh-oh. I lose Tyler, or did he lose me? Is anybody in chat? Can you hear anything?
Did I have it? Am I back now?
Yeah, I see you. I'm wondering if it's me that dropped out.
No, no, it was me. My
Oh, okay.
the this camera I'm using. It's a new ZVE1, and it does this weird thing where all of a sudden it'll just like randomly just like it's like, oh, we're hot, I'm hot, and overheats and then
Oh,
shuts
I got
off,
you.
and then
Right.
but it's weird because then you turn it back on and it doesn't have an overheat warning. It doesn't have anything. It'll just be like, oh, over hot. So I need to
Right.
figure that out with this thing. So sorry about that.
No,
Um,
it's all right.
let's see. Uh, where it was? Okay, just make sure this is all looking normal. Looks like it's looking normal. There we go. Yeah. Um, yeah, I poofed. My camera just died on me. But it should be good now, hopefully. Um, but yeah, I think that we were talking about the affiliates and or just like I don't think there's a problem with that. I think as long as people are upfront with it and aren't like super pushy about it, like we're like, I think it's up to the individual as a viewer and as the individual, putting the affiliates. Like that's your. I don't give anybody grief for that. You have to determine for yourself if that's how.
No, and no, and I'm just one person saying this, but I'll admit I've never bought something off of someone's affiliate link, and it's not because I didn't want to. It's like, hey, I like that review. I'm gonna go look it up a couple other places and do some research, and then end up buying it from whoever's got it for the best price. It's
Yeah, yeah.
so
I'm the
it's
same thing.
probably why it's not that big of a deal to me too.
And so yeah, it's just one of those things I see pop up every once in a while, and like every time like I wade into the weirdness of different forums or Reddit, and you'll see some of the stuff, and it's once a year I'll probably do that where I wade into those groups or whatever. I'd see some of those things, and it's funny that it's always the same uh, anger issues, right, or the same issues. It seems to be consistently the same kind of weird drama going on
Yeah.
there, but
Well, I think that all ties back into what you were talking about at the beginning with a lot of reviews. Why are so many reviews positive? And then people automatically think your review's positive because
because
you
you're
have an
getting
affiliate
paid.
link. It's like no,
Stuff's
it's
just
just
good. Like
it's
it's
just good. These I'll have a video out in these next week. I like these. They're not going to be for everyone, but I like them. So
yeah.
I mean, that's how it is.
Yeah, man. Like it's one of the things I always talk about, like or think about too. Like when we talked about earlier, is like I really do try to put myself in other people's shoes to some level, where I'm like, okay, well, I might not like this, and I try to say that. Like I try to be like, hey, I might not like this part, but I also try to caveat that or couch that with it being that's my thoughts. Like I don't necessarily think that it makes it
Yeah.
a bad thing overall. It's just for me, I don't like that part of something. I guess what would be a good? I'm trying to like look for like an example to look at, like or so like the Focal
Well, I
Stelia,
mean,
like I don't think that the bass is the greatest, but some people might think it's great. Like I don't, but that's fine. That's totally. I think that's the joy of this hobby is the fact that we all don't have the same opinion.
right. I like the Aria organic. I'm somehow thinking you probably wouldn't,
Yeah, I'm also
but that's
so
okay.
yeah, and that's okay. And like I'm a known like most planars don't work for me. Like and it's more of like a
Right.
I think it's more of a physical thing than anything else because they just over time they fatigue my ears too much and then it turns into a wall of noise or they're just too bright to me. And the only reason I think that they're bright, one, hi-fi mints tend to be bright. Excuse me. Come at me with that lovely comment of hi-fi mint bright thing. But the I, I've always just found them to be bright, and I think a part of it is not because they're maybe overly bright in reality. It's that I'm sensitive to really sharp imaging, maybe like you know, and so I think that might be that's an issue with me, not necessarily that the headphone is, you know, that's what I try to think about too.
Right. Right. No, I get that. Um, no, it's just so I've got the the HE 1000 V2 and V3
Mm-hmm.
that they sent me because I wanted to compare it to the Aria Organic, and it's crazy, man. Since I got that HA3A Cayenne amp,
Mm-hmm.
it's tamed. At least the one I'm listening to anyway is tamed in the treble. I was like, oh, "Are you serious?" So yeah, I can't wait to like get some more thoughts on it. I just started listening to it though, so that's all I have so far. But yeah, it's interesting because I mean, on this is where I finally understand. I know Zach had talked about this before when I've talked to him about how okay, did you listen on a solid state? Did you listen on a tube? Was it an OTL tube? I mean, I get it all now.
And that goes back to like that synergy factor too, right? Or like, yeah, like it's not like you were just saying. It's just some things are gonna sound better on other things, and some aren't. And here's the thing too is like if you don't pay attention to that, sometimes that can wreck you. Oh, I think I need to switch.
Poof. Say while he's doing that, if you, I don't know if anybody has any discussion stuff, but feel free to pop them in there, guys. If you do, I don't know who all's on. Hey, Keep Pants, Ace, nice to see you guys. My wife was in there, but I'm guessing she probably signed off a while ago. And you guys are seeing this and my face and voice aren't synced up, I'm gonna get this figured out at some point. I'm on a really cheap laptop. I'm guessing it's something to do with my webcam being or my camera being hooked into it, why it's out of sync. Hey,
Should
Nathan.
should be back up now, but I'm going to. Can you hear me now? Am I back up?
Yeah.
I'm going to try and switch.
Sorry, no, I was reading the chat. Yeah, I can hear you. Yep.
I'm going to try and switch bodies, see if that makes a difference. I was trying out this new camera, man, and it's so far it's been pretty decent, but it has that quirk where it overheats. Kind of frustrating.
Well, I'm kind of wondering if my audio issue is the cam link from my Sony camera, and because I use my audio on my Focusrite, and maybe because it's not plugged into the camera, it's just not syncing up. So I'll have to mess with it. But the problem is, like when you and I were talking, like on Zoom, it's fine. That's why I don't even know it's out of sync, because for some reason it's out of sync on YouTube. It's weird.
Yeah, maybe. Well, so I will say this: Camlink does. I was noticing Camlink was having some problems with when I was using it, and I switched. Sorry, now I have my A7S III that I was getting ready to just swap, but then I realized also that I have it set to 4K into this thing, and then this is outputting as 1080p because that's how Zoom outputs to in all this. It's just the way it works, 1080p for these kind of live streams. And so I just realized my camera was still set to 4K, so I just switched it to 1080. I wonder if that will help with the overheating issue.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it probably will. Yeah.
So that's probably one of the reasons it was overheating.
So with yours, just because I know you're a Sony guy too, I'm guessing I could probably do my Sony from the HDMI, like any HDMI, straight into my laptop and just bypass the cam link since I'm not going 4K. Do you think?
You'd have to use
to
a USB-C or USB, and you have to like. There should be like a way to make it a camera, like a cam. Like in it, like right now, this one I can plug it in with USB-C, direct USB-C to my laptop, and it acts like a streaming camera.
Yeah. Okay.
So you just have to look up your camera,
I need to try that,
and then see how if it has that capability to do that. In fact, now I kind of want to try that now that I switched it to 1080p. I bet it will work a lot better. What's up, Nathan? How's Capital words? They're hard. Capital Audio Fest. How's it doing out there? I was watching everyone's in my little group chats talking about all the speakers and all that fun stuff.
cool.
You should go say hi to Chris Grumpy Goose. He's at the Gashelli Labs. He's in their rooms. He's hanging out with those guys. He did all the carvings for their amps and DACs and whatnot for some of their limited runs. So you can go say hi to Chris, the Grumpy Goose guy, because I'm pretty sure you have a couple of his stands. But anyways,
Everybody has to have one of those stands.
oh man, so good, man. There, and then I have my audio diffusion acoustic device on top of my cord over there from Chris. But yeah, anyways, I wanted to kind of touch on some of the new stuff that's happening, right? We have the Mez Empyrean 2. Have you, what are your thoughts on that? Looks like I was looking at like all the measurements, and I was chatting with some people that had it prior to being able to talk about it, and I don't know, I haven't heard it yet, so I don't really feel like this is just more speculation talk than actual like opinion, you know. But what do you think?
Well, I mean, based off of, I didn't watch any videos, but based off of titles, you can obviously tell that unless it's clickbait, everybody's loving it. But it's funny because I doubt Meze is going to watch her stream. But you know, if they happen to watch a replay, they told me about this like 2 months ago, and I kept my mouth shut. Yep. So I have integrity. So yeah, I mean, I was excited about it. So I'm hoping at some point we'll be able to listen to it and get. I think it's $3,000.
Yeah.
Now, was the regular Empyrean, was that $3,000 also?
Yeah, I believe so. I think it was like around 30.
Okay.
I think it was actually more expensive, but I could be wrong. I want to say it was more expensive.
Somebody commented on my Caldera video about comparing the two, and that's I would love to compare the two of those and see.
The Empyrean 2 to the Caldera.
Right, yeah, the new one.
Yeah, because the old one was, in my opinion, I was not a fan of the old one. The first Empyrean was, and actually it was funny because I was chatting with somebody about it, and they did the same thing where the way the Empyreans are made, if you look at the traces, the upper part of the trace is for the highs and mids, and then it's like it's targeted, and then there's the very circular ones that go right into your ear holes, and I just, for whatever reason, the way that it did that, it triggered me something fierce with like some of my weird planar stuff with the. Oh, I have a gremlin trying to walk in the room. But yeah, it's one of those things, man, where I just didn't get along with it, and that wasn't that it was bad. I just didn't get along with it. I found it to be, for me, I just didn't like it. You know, and it was.
I listened.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say I listened to it at Can Jam, but to be fair, it was in a private room, so I wasn't out in the open, so I actually got a decent listen, and it was the short descriptor I think I even wrote down was like unexciting. I didn't get anything from it, like for what it is. So
it had really good bass. It had like that really good, like that kind of. For the people that I know that enjoy it, like especially they love the bass part of it, and that's
yeah.
Hey, I get it, and I enjoyed that part of it. It was more of for me, like it was just that sharp imaging and the weird wall and noise I'd get from it. But that's like more of an anatomy thing for me. As far as the new one though, everyone's been just like you said, praising the hell out of it. So I'm interested to see what it looks like, and then I'm not a measurements guy, but I can appreciate measurements. And so I saw the measurements, and I felt that it's going to be a fairly different tuning from the original in that it's going to be a little bit bass light. Not light, but like the bass is not as and it's not as warm based on the measurements I saw anyways. So.
Huh. I'm curious since you saw the measurements because I didn't. Is it anywhere near like a Harman curve?
Kind of like it's a little bit outside of it, but it's generally like that. It fits within that Harman curve, you know, like that very mellow. Yeah. It's just the bass is not as low as people. It's a little bit more elevated or light, and then I think there's a little bit of a dip. There's like always there's the dips in the mid range here and there, and then I didn't really see any peaks with the highs, which was nice, but we'll see. I mean, it's a measurement though. So like there's many times where I've saw a measurement based on what I know of measurements and been, oh, I probably won't like that. And then you listen to it and you're like, oh, this is fantastic. Like, so until I hear it, I can't really, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see here. SLC.
So to go along with that, because I know you're talking about things that are new coming up. I know I showed this in our Discord, but I've got the Midgard. Now, I haven't honestly really listened to it much yet, but I've put these on it, and I don't count that because it's just IMs. But what's really interesting about the Midgard that I can't wait to check out is that apparently, according to shit, they've got their like Halo, whatever they call that technology behind it, that if you plug it into the balanced, it's going to be a completely different experience than the single-ended, which kind of reminded me of the Jotunheim 2 in a way. But I just don't have it hooked up yet to balance because I've got to move stuff around my desk, but I can't wait to do that.
So, fun fact, I need to, it's going to be going away soon, but I still have the niche DSHA amp from CT. And he was like, hey, you need to plug it into the balance. Use the balanced and just tell me what you think. And so I was using it single-ended because I was using, at the time, why was I using single-ended? I can't remember. I was using single-ended just because I think it was easy because I had the cables already routed or whatever. So I switched it to balanced, and holy smokes, was it a different sounding amp, dude. It's like everything was just more. It was just it was definitely the way to go. And I know better. I know that's usually the case with like a balanced because it takes more parts, it takes more dedication to make a balanced circuit. And so usually the people, when they're making a balanced circuit, from my understanding, put most of their effort into that balanced circuit. So it tends to be that much better than the single-ended, in my people telling me, in my experience. Take that for what it is.
Yeah, no, I mean, everything I've listened to so far, I've enjoyed better unbalanced.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I get it.
And no, throw it. What's that?
Oh, I was just going to say what I didn't know, and I learned it from Zach, not directly from Zach, but on a forum post when I was trying to look up stuff about the HA3A, was even with balance, I didn't realize 4.4, if you can get it, is many times better even than XLR. Like XLR shares a lot of the same, I can't remember, I'm going to say it wrong, but a lot of the same like power circuitry or whatever as like single-ended, whereas 4.4 is sometimes a little bit less power, but just more controlled, I guess, for lack of a better term. And I heard it on the HA3A that it's also the least amount of noise coming out of that tube amp was on the 4.4. And now I'm like, okay, now I'm looking for more amps to have 4.4s on them just to see.
Yeah, I mean 4.4 is just honestly I would have thought the XLR would have been a more but maybe it's just for that amp specifically. But then 4.4 because like on some of the HiFi stuff, the 4.4 is notoriously noisy. And so I think it's just the implementation of the 4.4, depending on which. So KN probably has a better. Which, man, I love that company. I've had multiple KN amps, and I just, dude, I've yet to have one that I didn't like. If that makes sense.
I need to buy a shirt. Got my CMF shirt. Need to buy a Cayenne shirt.
Cayenne,
I love their products.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cayenne, however it's saying. Yeah.
Potato. Correct us, please.
No, I mean, honestly, man, like them. Woo Audio, been a huge fan of. I just did a Woo cable whatever video on them and that Tube Mini, and their tube amps that I heard at Can Jam. I think they make fantastic products. I've always liked shit products. I mean, there's just some that are just good.
Just some really good shit products, man.
Yep. Can't beat it.
Sorry.
Can, but
It's just sorry the play on words that they did with that company. Yeah, dude, I think that's I agree. All those ones are fantastic. I've always really enjoyed all those brands as well.
So here's a spicy topic for you. What brands? Because you've listened to a hell of a lot more than I have. What brands don't you like?
HiFi, man. Yeah, man. Like I thought the Sundara was pretty decent. I enjoyed the Sundara enough. Um, I liked the HE 1000. I think it's the V2 or the I can't remember which it's like the second version of it. I think I liked pretty well. But the rest of them I'm just and then the Susfara, like I have to give credit where credit's due. The Susfara is a fantastic sounding headphone. I just think for the build quality and the I don't know, like I didn't think it's I'm also just not a big fan of Hyperman, so like to me it's like it's just not worth it, but I don't know. It's, I think it's fantastic. It's definitely top of the line planar. I just think it's an overpriced top of the line planar. I personally think
I
the
mean, to
Caldera
be
is
fair,
better.
man. No, to be fair, from what you're saying, I mean, even this. So I think, I think this one that I've got is like 1999. I think it's regular like 3,000. This is the P1000, but it's the veneer like
The fake
wood
wood.
strip on the
Yeah.
side. I don't like it. I'm like, just keep it silver
Yeah.
or, paint it or something. But the veneer,
Yeah.
I think it sounds great, but I'm with you. Like their build quality is suspect at best.
Yeah. And like I don't know, so that's and then I have other biases that come into play for that are different. But I like as far as like my thoughts on the hyphen world. But the I try to think if there's any other like honestly, man, it's really rare for me to dislike something. Like and like goes back to what we were talking about before. It's like there's just everything is so good nowadays. It's actually you'd have to almost try to be bad, you know?
Yeah.
Like and I don't think people are doing that. Even some of the IEMs that are being spit out at like a million a month IEMs, right? Um, like I think that even with those, like they're not trying to be bad. You know what I mean? Like they might be doing it rushed and maybe just throwing stuff out there, but I don't think they're overly bad generally. And they're so cheap that it's like,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Now
but
I gotta say that's interesting what Keeve just said about Sennheiser because you're definitely not the first person I've heard say that
oh yeah, there's not a
about
lot.
Sennheiser.
Not a many fans. It's weird because that was like that was
Yeah.
the go-to headphone forever. I don't
Yeah.
think I
I think
have
I was reading something a
three.
while ago and I kind of agree with it in a way that they're kind of like stuck.
Oh yeah,
They're stuck
they
like
haven't
in their old
innovated
ways. They
in
won't. Right.
yeah they just haven't innovated. They're kind of resting on kind of their past a little too much. I'd say like I'm waiting for a good like I love the HD 700, but like especially with the form factor, if they could have done something with that form factor with like maybe fix some of the problems with it, it's a little bit wonky, but it's I think it still sounds really good. Like it's one of those I don't know. I don't know. I
I
like it.
liked the 660 S2 that I listened to, but again, it was like for 2023 it just didn't have a lot of bass. And sorry, but most people are going to like some kind of bass at least and it just didn't have a lot.
Yeah.
But overall it was all right.
So Ace actually nails it on the head right here. The HD 800 with like a bottle head
Yeah.
crack or a very like or just tubes. Oh, that's like
Yeah.
peanut butter and jelly or peanut butter and chocolate, man. That's such a outstanding combination. Um, and Keeb, you're just
Yeah.
wrong. I don't know what to tell you, man. You're just wrong.
I heard the
Joking.
HD800S at Can Jam again with a lot of crowd going around me, but
Mhm.
Justin had it hooked up to his
Mm.
Scarlet. Am I saying that right?
Red October.
Red October. Thank you. Holy cow! Wow, that was good. That was a good listen.
Yeah, do that. Yeah, that one is stupid good. That pairing is insane. Like it brings so much bass to the HG 100 that you're just kind of like, am I listening to the same headphone to some level? But it's still not like
Yeah.
super bassy. But it's I don't know. It's just a different experience. And Keeb, you know I'm just playing, man. I love you, man. You're good. I'm just teasing. Um, um, but yeah, I think
I have to say, I I'm not saying this against their company, but I've not always been a big fan of the IFI stuff that I've heard. I'll be
mm,
honest there. I mean, I know they kind of go towards the budget end, so I probably should give them a little more leeway because of that. But I mean, I sold off my Go Bar. I finally got tired of using it. I had a couple other things that I listened to, and I
mm.
don't know. That's just me.
Yeah, I can touch on that a little bit. I've heard a lot of hi-fi stuff, and I've owned a lot of hi-fi stuff. Iffy, hi-fi. I always call it iffy.
Yeah.
It's not. It's hi-fi.
However it is.
Yeah. It's real quick. Pantsa Bear HD800 is definitely a big difference on tubes. Is it gonna be a mind-blowingly different? It's gonna tame a lot of the highs, and it's gonna bring out a lot more warmth in it. But it's not going to be a complete departure from what the headphone already is. It's just going to enhance the parts that potentially are lacking in it, in my opinion. And just kind of it. I think it's a fairly big change.
Yeah.
But it's still not. It's still an HD800. Still got the stupid wide stage. It's still relatively bright, and it still has the same characteristics. It's just going to have a lot more of the other stuff that might be lacking. Anyways, hi-fi. I've had a lot of them that were noisy with the 4.4. I've had, but I also had sensitive IEMs at the time, so I was like, I didn't quite have the robust gear enough at the time to kind of, figure out if it was the IEMs being super sensitive or if the gear was noisy. Hi-fi tends to be a little bit more going for that, like kind of like a Brit-fi sound, and it has like that kind of a little bit warmer sound signature, and they also throw a ton of technology into their stuff, and they're usually some of the first to innovate or first to take on new technologies. They're not afraid to do that with their products, so they're one of the first to put 4.4 in all of their products, which might explain why some of their 4.4 is a little bit noisier, because they just weren't able to, like they're learning as they go, kind of, because as the first ones to really put it in there, right? So maybe that's part of the problem there. But I mean, I've also really liked most of the hi-fi stuff I've had. I mean, I think for what it's but once again, that doesn't mean it's good or bad, depending on, like, I've also known plenty of people that had hi-fi stuff just crap out on them, and they're just like, and how do you stop that, right? Like, that person's now lost to you forever. Like, you have to do a lot to get them back on board,
Yeah. No, I get that.
Yeah, Rodrigo, I agree, man. By the way, hey, what's up, brother? The Inlium, I haven't heard it on the portable, but I've heard it on the big speaker, and that's still one of my all-time favorite amps. Solid states I've heard for anything, honestly, for as far as solid states. It's like one of in-game solid states, and I was using it even with my Kefs, and that thing was fantastic. And then it just paired really well with everything, and it had so much power. I'm trying to think, like, what other, like, that thing was, with the HD800, it really was. It kind of brought it to the same level as like a tube amp. Yes, Gremlin?
I'm not a gremlin.
Okay, you can come in and say hi real quick, but then you have to go out, okay?
Hi.
Okay, now go talk to mom. Shut the door behind me. So she's an attention. She loves attention. She's she thinks it's weird. Like I'm real.
Sounds like my son.
She has to be in the middle of everything. So, oh yeah. So like I think like the Inlium is fantastic. Definitely worth checking out. I actually really want to hear their portable now. But yeah, which I think Rodrigo's talking about. Man. Audio. It's such a weird space, dude. Like, I want to start flexing out into different areas of my other hobbies, that kind of stuff. But it's weird. I guess have so much backlog of audio gear. It's kind of hard to get away from it sometimes.
No, it is. Yeah, it is. And it's funny, is like, as much as I've always said, like, it's great to hear stuff that's different. I reach for it, and I'm like, yeah, I want to hear something different. Then I feel kind of bad when I hear something different and I don't like it. And it's like, well, dang it. It was different, but it wasn't good different.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. Like, and so, yeah, like, what was the one that I had that was like that for me recently? I'm trying to think. Like, I haven't really had too many that were like that. is most of the time I can generally get along with most things. Well, yeah, I guess like the lyric is one of them. That's like I think that's fantastic headphone, right? But it's not something that I would actually personally probably buy, just because it just doesn't fit my sound like the way I like my audio, you know. And so it's like it's a really good sounding headphone, but it's one of those ones where it's like I just don't. It's not something I'm big on. So that kind of goes back to the other thing we were talking about too. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I felt kind of the same way about it when I listened to it. I liked it. I thought it was good. It's funny though, because I remember, I think from what you were saying, like our experience on soundstage with it was different, and that again
yeah,
could come down to synergy. I mean,
synergy. Yeah.
honestly, it really could, because I know
Hmm.
they did those, the holes that they put in the side of the
Hmm.
cups that's
Yeah.
to help with like airiness
Air
and
pressure.
getting
Mhm.
stage. And I remember I was like listening to him, I was like, oh yeah, it's kind of nice.
And,
But yeah, then I've
and
heard others say the same opposite. So
it's not that it's a bad soundstage, but then see, I'm also comparing against stuff like the HD800 or like I've been listening to a lot more speakers lately. So it's like, it's that also colors your opinion of things, right? So like your
yeah,
mindset, the stuff you've been doing, and I talk about this every once in a while too, like the psychology of it. Our life experiences color our opinions of things. Like you can't not have
yeah,
your day-to-day life, or even like I was born, this was my life to this point, that's colored my viewpoints on things, right? I learned a lot during my childhood that colored my opinions today, and this goes to the day all the way up to now. I have decades of basically learned traits or biases that now color everything that I dive into, right? Or how I view things. So, and that audio is no different. So
no.
kind of like go ahead.
Oh no, I was just agreeing with you. Yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah. Like, but that's one of those things where, you know, it goes to the perfect example of that is when you have 3, 4 people watching the exact same event, and then you have those same 4 people go tell people what they saw, and all the people from the 4 different people have 4 different stories that don't quite match up, you know.
right.
So, um, it's just one of those things. And I actually have a pair of grottos. I have I think it's the 80s, and they're okay. I agree with you. They're not my favorite headphone either. Actually, one of the ones I really liked from the Grotto series, of all of them, it's like my favorite of the Grottos was the Himps. The Himps were actually pretty good. They curbed a lot, or they tamed a lot of the highs. They got some nice low end. They kind of remind me more of like my other favorite headphone, the Cost Porter Pros, a little bit more in that realm, but like more detail and imaging and stuff. But yeah.
That just reminded me. When we were talking about brains earlier, another one that I feel like has kind of been stuck, kind of like Sennheiser, is
Mhm.
Bayer Dynamics.
Oh yeah.
Because when I first started listening to high end gear, my first headphone was a Bayer Dynamic, like
Hmm.
higher end headphone. And
Yep.
yeah,
Same.
like ever since then, what I've heard, it's like everything's a little bit the same. They
Hmm.
all have some sibilance, and
Yeah.
yeah, like they need something different too.
And I think we're about 10 minutes over an hour, but we'll go to like for another like 15 minutes. What do you think, Ryan?
Sure. Good with
But
that.
real quick, I wanted to kind of touch on that. I have tried the Newman's keyboard, but I wanted to kind of touch on like how that affects things too, though, right? Like I'm trying to think of a way to put this without it being like weird, you know. But I think I don't know. I'll have to come back to it until I formulate my thoughts on it a little bit better because I'm not thinking very well regarding too
Well,
much booze and.
while you're thinking of that, one thing I was thinking, you're good. I was going to say like something along those lines. I think it's interesting is like when you take something like ZMF
Hmm.
and Zach's latest headphone, it does sound, obviously it's supposed to be more of a portable, the Boca,
Hmm.
okay. But it does still maintain a sound. And I think that's important to still stick to your house sound,
Hmm.
but it doesn't mean you can't be a little different. That's what I was saying, like with Bayer, is like I feel like
Hmm.
they have a house sound, but they don't really, kind of like Sennheiser, they don't really try to go off the rails at all on anything.
Yeah, And I think I'm trying to say this without sounding like a kind of like a like the going to like the Bear Dynamics like too is like they like I think they're just they're definitely one of those ones that just they get a lot of hype for what they are because of all the gamers that use them for like the competitive gaming or because you see them in studios all the time. But I also wanted to say like there's something to be said about that, you know, like it's this weird chase for studio sound. And that's what I'm trying to think about like how to phrase this right, like because I think that's not the way we should be listening. Like studio mastering is not like the way they're listening is not the same way that audiophiles are listening. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that weird chase for studio sound is such a weird one to me sometimes because and it's a hot topic I think, or it could be a controversial one to some level, but I think that it's just not studio is they're working on trying to find flaws to fix them. So they want the most neutral, probably bright sounding, so they can pick up all the little details, sounding headphones and speakers they can. So they're not, you know, so then they can color it to be proper for a car stereo, a headphone, a speaker setup. You know, like that's, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of that same sentiment of if people truly like tubes or not, like OTL tubes or not, because of the distortion and things. But that's, to me, that's just like enjoyment and musical and all that. I mean, but you know, to each their own, I suppose.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, then there's another factor to this too, because I talked to a bunch of guys like Keebs. Actually, he's into mastering and doing engineering for audio stuff. But I talked to some other people that are like way into making music. Like these are actually like hip hop heads, and they, you know, they put out albums or they toured with certain people, and they talk about like the stuff that they were mastering with at the time, or like that you see all these like some of these big name people that are mastering or doing this kind of like studio stuff, and they're using AirPods to do it all. So there's also that side of it too, and like so
yeah,
it's like sometimes
you don't. I mean, right? Yeah, you have no idea what they used. Well, that was like when I listened to the MM500 from Odyssey.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was a very analytical headphone because that's kind of what they're aiming towards, but it didn't excite me to listen to music. But I mean, that's not the purpose. Technically, it was for I think his name's Manny American. That's who the M's after. He's a mixed master guy that they were talking about how he mastered Kendrick Lamar's album with those headphones. That's great. But when I listened to Kendrick through those, it sounded like, you know, not exciting.
Yeah,
I hear his lyrics really well.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah.
But then you go saying that the same album off the same chain with a pair of like Atriums or Aeolus or or some of this, you know, or even Porta Pros or like, and you'd be like, yeah, I get it, you know, and that's what I'm talking about, man. Is that exactly that, like that whole. There's a lean forward listen and there's a lean back listen kind of scenario, but there's also a studio listen scenario where you're literally trying to, you kind of get it when you're doing like when you start doing like audio reviews, or you like it's a weird thing that comes up, but you start to go into that mindset, and it's not necessarily bad or good, but to me like we were talking about also before, Ryan, is the where you get that fatigue because you're listening to the same track over, so you're becoming so analytical of what you're listening to that you're just not enjoying listening because it's work. It's not I'm relaxing. This is work. And I think that's when it's, I don't know, like I think that kind of ruins the music for me a little bit if I, you know.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
And Keith, exactly. Music at the end of the day needs to convey emotion, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. I want to be engaged. I want to be pulled in. I want to, get the tears in the eyes, or I don't know. Like that's music. That's always been music for me. Like I've always been a lover of music, as I'm assuming everybody is that's an audiophile. It's just how they prefer their conveyance of that, I guess. Really, at the end of the day, subjective.
Yeah, honestly, it's one of the first things I learned when I was getting into doing these videos and things was you talking to you and getting some advice from you is like when you're trying to describe sound, put something behind it. That's why I try to do track references and things
Mhm.
because you got to have some connection
Yeah,
to a sound. I mean,
yeah,
otherwise you're just describing a sine wave or whatever you call it. It's boring.
yeah, man. Like yeah, the measure baiters, man, the measure baiters.
Yeah.
um, like, I always joke. This is actually a joke that I've been pushed on. I don't think I didn't come up with it. I can't remember if I came up with it or somebody else in my little group chat just coming up with it. But it was we were talking about it's like uh, measure. Like, people that love measurements tend to like you don't listen with your eyeballs. You know what I mean? But that's what they're doing to some level. They're not actually listening with their ears. They're listening with their eyes. When you become so enmeshed or like when you take so much worth out of a measurement that's like a 2D line on a graph, like I just don't I don't know. There's no like even here like there's no emotion to it, you know. Which to be fair, scientifically that's what you
Yeah.
want, but at the same time like I don't think that tells the whole story, you know. It's one
That's why
portion.
I just hate that it's in our hobby much.
Yeah.
It
And,
just it bothers me so much it's in our hobby. Like it belongs in computers.
hmm,
I want to know how my core or whatever 14th gen Intel measures. That's important, but how my sound measures, whatever. Go away
yeah.
with that.
Keep my yeah, and then it does become that too. Actually, yeah, Keep it is a bit of a measuring contest, right? Pun intended.
It
But
is.
but like
Yeah.
they're like mine measures better than yours, and it's also a justification measurement too. Like it's a justification for I made this purchase, and no offense to people that do that. That's just the thing is that is a thing that happens to 99.9% of people is they get confirmation bias or they want confirmation bias or which measurements provide to some great degree, and especially when they're pushed the way that they're pushed as the end all be all when they're not. They're just what they are. Just like EQ. EQ is a whole. I mean, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole right now because we got a couple minutes. But EQ to me,
Yeah.
like I think it's great. It's good that people can do it. To me, it's a barrier I don't want to deal with. And every time I've ever EQ'd anything, there's always something that comes out that's a negative for me. Anyways, like I've never been
Right.
able to EQ something where it sounded exactly how I wanted it to without it affecting something else that I didn't like. And that's just me. So I don't think EQ's bad. I just personally don't find it as beneficial as a lot of people think it is, at least for me. So I'm not saying it's bad or I don't
Well,
care,
yeah.
but
No, I agree. I mean, that's why you'll see people that'll have like, hey, here's my target curve that I prefer. I don't have one.
yeah,
I
I don't know
don't.
what that means.
Because that's why I have multiple headphones because I may not like this headphone listening to rap music. I may like it for something else. That's what I get to do. I'm not going to EQ it to make
Yeah,
it that way.
that's actually just the chain, right? You have certain chains that you love listening off certain different music, and that's the thing. Like the HD800s with a bottlehead crack, listening to some classical music, and I'm not like a huge classical guy, but I do love classical music, and that is crazy. And just jazz too, like bananas. But I wouldn't
Yeah.
listen to my HD800s on solid state unless I was playing video games. like
Right.
so,
Yeah,
um,
I agree.
I don't know, weird. Or the other one I always thought was hilarious is when people are like, you can EQ a headphone to sound just like another headphone, and it's like no, that's physically impossible. like the drivers are
I
different.
will say
Like you can get
I
close.
will say one thing before we end this because I have to finally put my hand up and say I experienced it. So I've always been skeptical on cables making a difference, like only because I hadn't heard it. That's the only reason why, not for any other reason. These that I was listening to, I have a pair of Heart Audio IEM cables that I bought from them, and I was listening to these, and I was on their balanced, and these things were so bright and terrible. I was like, oh man, this review is not going to be good. It's not good. Well, then I used the cable that came with them, and I was like, wait a second, they're not bright. They're actually, or they are, but I'm saying they're not that bright at least. And it's the first time that's ever happened where I'm like, the cable actually did matter. So,
And
yeah, there is definitely something to it.
And so I could say, from my knowledge of cables and this, it's the, I mean, you have to think of it scientifically too, right? There's a material inside of it, and depending on the purity of that material and blah 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 blah, electrons are flowing through that material, and depending on how good the quality is or how it's made or even the solder joints to that thing can cause an impedance jump or a dip or even just how well it conducts that. And so that, I think, is what you're hearing potentially. And I'm with you, man. I think that I might not be able to hear the difference, but I do think that there's a science to it that does say that materials conduct things in certain ways, and that's going to affect things. And then they also can create impedances that will, I think I'm using the right word. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a electrical engineer.
No, I know you're, I'm following you.
And so that could also, like, where it can give it a boost or it can pull back on the power that's being transferred through it. And so that could be a thing to the materials used, like silver to copper to a mix can convey. Like, everyone says silver is bright. And I've actually experienced it once before on a pair of silver cables where I was like, there was this one part of a track where every time it came to it, only when I used those cables did it get sibilant with a specific headphone.
Yeah.
And I was just like, but I switched cables and it wouldn't be sibilant. And every time it was like I could easily A/B it, and it would be a very specific point of a very sibilant track that I don't recommend. But sorry, that's my take on cables as well. Like, I once again, cables are like point something percent of like your audio chain that I would worry about that.
Absolutely.
But but it can happen, like you said, like it can be also, so I mean, especially when it comes to like the cables provided by a company, a lot of times, I mean, you have to think of the synergy of that too. Like, they made those cables specifically for that product. So I mean, there's that too, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, what do you think? Final thoughts?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that's a good segue wrap. Yeah, the wife actually she texted me, "Are you about done?" Right. Time to cut it off.
All right, man. Yeah, man. So hopefully we can get more of these. I'm gonna try and bring them back a little bit more and keep doing these streams. Hopefully we can get some better, figure out this internet and all that fun stuff. But hopefully it was good for everybody, and it was a good jump back in point. I need to get acclimated back to talking live, like on a live stream kind of thing, and having a good conversation and going. I'm awkward right now.
Well, I know I told you before, if we happen to be lucky enough to both get either the new MF amp or the bokeh in, we got to talk about it on a stream. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
I'm definitely down. It's always fun. I actually prefer this. This is actually how I got started into doing YouTube, was these live streams. So I'd like to start doing them more. Yeah. So, yeah, man. Thanks for jumping on, and we'll be chatting with you. And yeah, let's talk. I should talk to Zach. See about maybe we can coordinate with him. And then we can do like a full roundtable on it. That might be fun.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. Cool.
Alrighty. Well, hey, thanks everybody for joining. Skeeb, Ryan, any final words?
I got nothing.
Night, moflickas.
Yep. Thanks for joining, guys.
All right. Hopefully it slapped.
Yes. There we go.
All right. Cheers.